Students, secondary 2, we are going to talk about King Solomon's Mines today, chapter 1. It is titled "Was I Met Sir Henry Courts." It's a curious thing that at the age of 55 I'm taking up a pen to try to write history. I'm writing about the events that helped me make a fortune. But I don't think I would go through the ordeal of the last 15 or 16 months again for it. To start with, let me try to list down my reasons for writing this book. First, because Sir Henry Courts and Captain John Good asked me to. Second one, because I'm held back at Durban due to the pain in my left leg. I have been having this recurrent pain ever since that detestable lion planted his sharp teeth on my leg. Third, because I want my son Harry to be entertained by our adventure. He is studying in London to become a doctor, and reading this book will keep him out of the mischief for a week or so at the very least. The fourth and last reason is because I have a strange story to tell. The story is strange for many reasons. Among them, one is that it has no woman in it except for Volta and that gaggle. That is, if you consider her to be a woman. Well, I'd better begin my story. I am Alan Quatermain. Here is the question. Who was Alan Quatermain? This is the first question. I am Alan Quatermain, a traveling trader and hunter. I have been involved in numerous fights and killed many men during my time. But I'd like to clarify this. I have shed blood only in self-defense. I was born a gentleman, but I have remained one. I don't quite know. I have had a lot to do with slaves. I think I will scratch I will scratch out the word slaves, for I don't like it. As for being gentlemen, I have known natives who are, and I have also known mean people with lots of money and fresh out free from home. Two who are not. Here is a question, another question, important one. When did Alan's adventure begin? Here, the adventure will begin. My adventure began 18 months ago when I had been elephant hunting beyond Bamangwatu. Everything went wrong with that trip. I met with bad luck, got the fever badly, got overcharged at the hotel, and I was finally determined to go back to Natal. I bought a berth on the stream called Dunkeld and went abroad. Here is another question. Where did Quatermain first meet Sir Henry? This is a question. It will be on the steamer called Dunkeld. In the afternoon we were joined by passengers from Edinburgh Castle that sailed in from England. Soon Dunkeld was at sea. Among the passengers were two gentlemen who aroused my curiosity. Here another one. Who did Alan meet? Okay? Or who were the passengers with him? One was a tall, fine-looking gentleman of about 30. He had yellow hair, thick yellow beard cut clear-cut features and large gray eyes. He seemed to remind me of someone, but I couldn't remember who. His companion was a broad man of medium height. He was stout. Stout means brave and dark, and wore an eyeglass in his right eye. The eyeglass seemed to reside in there, for it had no string. Afterwards, I found out that he took off his eyeglass when he went to sleep, along with his false teeth, of which he had two sets. I judged him to be a naval officer, and he was proved right. He was Captain James Good, a lieutenant. He must have been 31 years old. He had been turned out of Her Majesty's employment after 17 years of service. That's what people who serve the Queen have to expect, to be shut out into the cold world, to find a living just when they are beginning to really understand their work. It was evening. I was standing by the engines, watching the pendulum's movement, when I heard someone behind me say, "That pendulum is wrong." Here is another comment. Who did who said these words? Okay, I turned round and saw Captain Good. "What makes you think so?" I asked him, dreading that I might have to listen to an officer of the Royal Navy when he gets on the particular subject. Page 12. But before I could answer my question, the dinner bell rang, and I accompanied the captain on to his table. Sir Henry Courts was already seated by the table when we reached there. The Captain Good sat next to him, and I sat opposite them. The captain asked a lot of questions. Soon they talk veered to elephants. The talk veered. They changed the talk to the elephants. Someone sitting at the table commented, "Sir, you have found the right man to learn about elephants. Hunter Quatermain should be able to tell you about elephants if anybody can." Sir Henry, who had been sitting quietly until now, suddenly looked at me curiously. "Excuse me, sir," he said in a low, deep voice, "but is your name Alan Quatermain?" I said that it was. The big man made no further remark, but I heard him mutter, "Fortunate," into his beer. This Henry remained quiet throughout dinner after that, but when I got up to take my leave, he asked me to join them in his cabin to smoke pipe. Here another important question. What did Sir Henry ask Alan about? Okay, concentrate with me. The answer will be in these lines. The captain was spacious. We sat down on comfortable chairs and lit our pipes. "Mr. Quatermain," said Sir Henry Courts, "2 years ago I believe you were at a place called Bamangwato, to the north of the Transvaal." I was rather surprised to hear that he was aware of my movements. I said. Okay, another comments here. "You were trading there, were you not?" asked Captain Good. There was another comment. I was. I took up a wagon load of goods. Wagon, it's a carriage, a kind of carriage, and camped outside the settlement till I sold them. Sir Henry had a curious look in his eye. He asked, "Did you happen to meet a man called Neville there?" There is another comment here. Yes, he stayed with me for a fortnight to rest his oxen before heading to the interior. He left at the beginning of May in a wagon with a hunter called Jim. He planned to trek as far as Inyati, where he would sell his wagon and go further on foot. In fact, a few months back I got a letter from a lawyer asking me if I knew what had happened to him. I replied in the best way I could. Okay, this is an important page. We have three questions here, one question and two comments. You must concentrate on it. Page 17. Yes, Sir Henry, your letter was forwarded to me. I was surprised to hear this. Sir Henry continued, do you know or can you guess the reason of Mr. Nivel's journey to the northward? Do you happen to know where he was going? I heard something. I said and stopped. The subject was one that I didn't care to discuss. Sir Henry and Captain Good looked at each other. Captain Good nodded. Here is another question. What was Sir Henry going to tell Mr. Quatermain about? Yes, it's an important one. Mr. Quatermain continued, Sir Henry, I'm going to tell you a story and I ask your advice and perhaps you assist. The agent who forwarded me your letter told me that you are greatly respected and can be trusted completely. I was embarrassed. Mr. Nivel was my brother. Oh, I said, startled. I now knew whom Sir Henry reminded me of when I first saw him. Page 18. Here is another question. What happened between Sir Henry and his brother George? The answer it will in these lines. He was my one and only brother. He was called George until 5 years ago. He were never apart from each other from more than a month. However, my father died without leaving a will. As per the law of England, I inherited everything. George, my brother, was left penniless, without money. We fought bitterly. In my anger, I behaved unjustly towards my brother, said Sir Henry. Here Captain Good looked solemn. Yes, serious here means serious. And nodded his head vigorously in agreement. Sir Henry continued later, I found out that my brother George withdrew the few hundreds of pounds that he had in his bank account. Here another question. Where did George go to after fighting with Sir Henry? Here is the question. He took up the name of Nivel too and came to Africa, hoping to make his fortune. 3 years passed by, and I heard nothing to my brother. Though I wrote to him several times, I had no doubt that the letters never reached him. I was worried about him. I then started sending inquiries concerning my brother. Mr. Quatermain, your letter was the only ray of hope. Here is another question or comment. Here, page 19. So to cut a long story short, this is a comment. Said Sir Henry, I made up my mind to come out and look for him myself, and Captain Good was so kind as to come with me. Nothing better to do, explained the Captain Good, smiling politely. But tell me, what was it you heard about my brother's journey at Bamangwato? Sir Henry asked me. What I heard has stayed with me. This is a comment. Yeah, I have never mentioned it to anyone until today. I answered, I hear that he was going to look for Solomon's mines. Okay, thank you for listening and have a nice time. Goodbye.